Welcome to GMAT, Understanding and Preparing for the GMAT exam. My name is Michael Giordano, and I am the Assistant Director of Graduate Admissions at UT Tyler. During our time together today, we will discuss how the GMAT is used in the application process, why the GMAT is an accurate predictor of academic success, how the GMAT is structured, facts about this exam, and ways to prepare. The GMAT is presented by the Graduate Management Admission Council. This is a nonprofit association comprised of over 200 of the world's leading business schools. The association is the leading advocate of graduate management education and provides products, services, and research to assist schools, candidates, and the GME community. They also manage MBA.com. The GMAT exam was created by business schools for business schools and was specifically designed to assist with business school admissions. It's accepted by more than 6,000 programs and over 2,000 schools and has been taken by more than 10 million people. Taking the exam used primarily for GME programs helps communicate to the admissions councils that you are serious about business. Most importantly, the GMAT continues to be the gold standard in business admissions, and nearly 9 out of 10 new MBA enrollments were students who used a GMAT exam score. The GMAT has been around for 60 years, and GMAT conducts predictive validity research for specific schools to better understand how test scores correlate with academic performance of current MBA students. What happens is that real GMAT results, section scores and total scores, are compared with course grades year over year. The results allow admissions officers to predicate candidates' GPA halfway through a program. Let's consider the following example. Admissions officers want to know that you can handle the academic demands of their program, and when they open a file, they have no idea how you'll perform academically. By looking at the GMAT scores, they're able to narrow down and gain a much stronger sense of where you might end up. In this case, this person's score indicates that they would fall somewhere between a 3.2, 3.8 at the halfway point. They factor in the other exam sections, undergrad scores, etc., and this helps them get a better and better sense of how you may perform mid-program. While there are always other factors that impact grades, the GMAT is the best predictor of academic success, and that's why admissions officers value it, and so should you, since it will help ensure you end up in a program that is a good fit for you. Let's look at a few myths about the GMAT. Myth 1, I need a high score. Admissions officers evaluate your entire application, making a decision based on the whole. Don't fixate on a single perfect GMAT score. Admissions officers will look at your entire application, not just one or two elements, to ensure you will be a good fit in their program. Tip: make sure your entire application is strong, demonstrates the real you, and includes a well-defined post-MBA career goal. The admissions process is not all about the GMAT, and the GMAT does not measure some very important things admissions officers are looking for in candidates: the intangibles, the soft skills, etc. We want to make sure you are a fit both academically and personally, and they want to know that you will both contribute to and benefit from the business school experience. The entire goal of this process is to paint an accurate and compelling picture of the most important aspect: you. The GMAT is just one aspect of a balanced admissions process. For candidates, the GMAT can help you by providing an opportunity to stand out in the applicant pool, can help compensate for part of your application that may not be particularly compelling, can open doors to a school you might not otherwise be admitted to, and/or it might help you secure financial support from the school. It should give you confidence to know that you have the ability to handle the academic demands of the program. And finally, studying for the GMAT helps you prepare for business school. For the graduate school at UT Tyler, the GMAT helps our admissions officers determine your academic potential by using your exam score as a predictor of performance in each respective program. It's also a way to evaluate you against other candidates by being able to even the playing field and compare apples to apples. Let's talk computer adaptive testing. It's different than a standardized test, so it may be new to you. This is not the kind of test you took to get into college, and you don't need a number 2 pencil. Computer adaptive testing builds the exam around your performance and allows you to end up in the score range you should be in. When you sit for the GMAT, you start with an item of middle difficulty and in turn begin with a mid-range score. If you answer a question correctly, you will get a harder question next. Inversely, if you answer a question incorrectly, the next question will be easier. This happens one question at a time. You cannot skip or go back, and each item counts in the scoring of the exam. The exam design makes it extremely accurate, efficient, and secure. Ultimately, the GMAT measures your ability to reason, not just your mastery of an academic subject. And we'll talk more about this when we walk through each section. Myth 2. Only the first 10 answers count. This is not true. Each item counts in the scoring algorithm, so it's very important to balance answering questions correctly with completing the exam questions. Here's a hypothetical example that demonstrates how computer adaptive testing works and why all questions matter. As discussed, you start with a middle difficulty question. You're nervous and get it wrong, so you get an easier question. You get that question wrong too, so you get an easier question. You get that one right. You settle down and start getting the questions right over and over again, which moves you into the range that you should be, and you'll continue to tether around until you reach the end of the exam session. So the exam allows you to have a rough start, or have a great start because you're lucky, but eventually you end up in the range you're supposed to be in, and your score will reflect that. Myth number 3, easy equals the wrong answer. Though we just discussed that getting a question wrong means an easier question will follow, there are a few reasons one may perceive a question as easy. You could be getting all the answers right, and there is a change in content. Or you may have received a research question. You'll receive a few research questions throughout the exam, but they don't count toward your total score. Given this, trying to guess if a particular GMAT exam question is hard or easy will only make you more anxious. So don't worry about it. Just know that your perception of easy could mean a lot of things. So try to just shake it off and move forward with your prep strategy. Let's now dive into the exam. All right, so what's on the GMAT and how does it work? The GMAT has 4 sections. 1. Analytical writing, a 30-minute section that includes 1 analysis of an argument question. There will only be 1 question, and the score is between 0 and 6. 2. Integrated reasoning. This is a 30-minute section with 12 questions. The individual section score is between 1 and 8. There's a small break after this section. 3. Quantitative reasoning, a 62-minute section with 31 questions, and the section scores between 6 and 51. There's another small break after this section. 4. And finally, verbal reasoning, 65 minutes, 36 questions, with a section score of 6 to 51. The total score is between 200 and 800, and will only be comprised of the verbal and quantitative sections. The entire exam, with breaks, lasts about 3 hours. The GMAT offers 3 exam structures, the one we just walked through, or you can shift the last 2 sections to the beginning of the exam and choose to begin with either quantitative or verbal. There is no correct or recommended order. This feature was developed to allow test takers to choose the order that makes them most comfortable and suits their style. The GMAT exam is truly designed to assess the skills you'll be expected to perform in your program. If you look at the top of the analytical writing section in green, you will see the GMAT question type, which in this case is an analysis of an argument. At the bottom, you will see that business school students are expected to analyze arguments, take an informed position, and write clearly and effectively. This slide demonstrates how each section of the exam was designed to assess the skills business school students will need in their programs and beyond. You can pause this presentation here to read through these sections if you'd like. The analytical writing assessment section includes 1 essay question, and the point of this section is for you to essentially take a position. This is a sample question for the analytical writing assessment. You'll be given an argument where you'll be asked to discuss how well reasoned you find the argument and analyze the line of reasoning with evidence. You'll also receive examples of how you might do this, like discussing the evidence that would strengthen or refute the argument. Please keep in mind that you have 30 minutes to complete the section, so don't focus too much on verbiage or length. Focus on getting your point across in a clear and concise manner. The integrated reasoning section was introduced in 2012 and assesses your ability to take various types of information, verbal, quantitative, etc., and make correlations between them to ultimately solve problems and create solutions. If you've been in the workforce, you will see that the questions may mirror skills that you use in your daily roles. Let's look through the 4 question types you'll see in this section. The first question on screen is an example of a multi-source reasoning question. You'll be asked to use text, charts, and/or tables to answer questions. The right part of your screen shows a sample table analysis question. For this type of question, you'll be presented with a sortable table of information that you must analyze to determine if provided statements are true. The next example is of a graphics interpretation question. You will be given a graph and a few incomplete statements with drop-down boxes. You must use the graph to select the appropriate answer from those drop-down boxes to make each statement true. Finally, the 2-part analysis section will require you to look at a chart with 2 columns of options, and you must choose the options you think are correct. One quick note regarding IR. This is the only section of the exam where you are permitted to use a calculator. At the test center, it will be an on-screen calculator, so when prepping for the exam, keep this in mind. Earlier, I mentioned that the test is designed to assess reasoning and not just application. To further expand on that, at this level, it is presumed that you have the content knowledge of the subject. This section will evaluate your ability to understand how all the aspects work together and your ability to reason within those constructs. For instance, a question on the SAT may give you a list of numbers and ask you to find the mean. The question measures your understanding of the concept of the mean and your ability to do the necessary calculations. A question on the GMAT may ask you what happens to the mean, median, and standard deviation if you change one of the numbers. This question goes a step further beyond understanding a calculation of a mean to understanding the dynamic interactions among the numbers and the statistical concepts. Myth 4. Advanced math skills are required. This leads to another GMAT myth that advanced math is needed. Really, if you completed 10th grade math, you can take the GMAT exam. The SAT and ACT actually test application of more advanced skills than the GMAT exam. Again, it is expected that test takers already have the skill knowledge and will measure your ability to reason using the skills. During the exam, you will need basic algebra, elementary algebra, commonly known geometric concepts, and logic and analysis skills. Here's an exam of a problem-solving question. The price of lunch for 15 people was $207, including a 15% gratuity for service. What was the average price per person, excluding the gratuity? And the answer is $11.73. Here's a sample of a data sufficiency question. Data sufficiency questions are a bit different in that it isn't asking you to answer the question. It's asking you to determine if you have sufficient data to answer the question. All data sufficiency questions have the same answer choices, so a tip is to become so familiar with them that you already know which answers correlate to each letter. This can be a time saver on this question type. Similar to the quantitative section, the exam is designed with the expectation that you have acquired the verbal application skills and will measure your ability to reason as it relates to reading comprehension, critical reasoning, and sentence correction. Let's take a look at a few examples. This is an example of a reading comprehension question. You will receive a passage of information and be expected to use what you've read to answer a set of questions. Feel free to pause through this presentation to read through it. Here's a sample critical reasoning question. These questions assess your ability to critically evaluate information. In this case, you'd evaluate each answer and select the one you find most appropriate. Here's an example of a sentence correction question. Now we'll discuss exam features and how you can make the best use of them. You can register for the GMAT on mba.com. You will first create an account and then move on to register for the exam. You can find test times and locations by clicking on the GMAT exam and Find a Test Center. There you can search by zip code and date to find info on the time and location. There are more than 600 test centers worldwide. The GMAT costs $250, and the fee applies to each test you take. You can send your score to up to 5 programs without an additional fee. Additional score reports are available for $28. You can also sit for the test without selecting any schools if you want. If you want to retest because you canceled an exam or you want to simply test again to try for a higher score, you must wait at least 16 days between tests. Side note, about 20% of candidates take the exam more than once, generally just one more time, and on average see a 30-point gain. Candidates can't exceed 5 GMAT exams within a 12-month period, and there's an 8-time testing limit on the GMAT exam. In other words, you may take the GMAT exam no more than 8 times, period. Scores are valid for 5 years. A few things about test day. We want you to be familiar with what to expect on test day to avoid unnecessary anxiety. Since the GMAT exam is a high-stakes test, security is very tight. Taking the GMAT seems to involve more security than boarding an international flight. You will need to show a valid ID, driver's license, passport, etc. You will provide an electronic signature. You will have a digital photo taken. You'll have a palm vein scan taken. And finally, you cannot bring your cell phone into the testing room. After you've answered your last question, you'll see your unofficial score report. That score report will include your individual scores for integrated reasoning, verbal, and quantitative, as well as your total score, which is made of the verbal and quantitative sections. The AWA section is scored by both a person and a computer and will not be available yet. The awesome thing about the unofficial score report is that you'll immediately know how you've performed and be able to make decisions regarding your next steps. At this point, you will be able to decide whether you would like to accept your score or cancel it. There's no additional cost to cancel your scores. You will have 2 minutes to make this decision, so we recommend going into the test center with an idea of your minimum score threshold. If you cancel your score, no one will know but you. There will be no C or anything else on the report that indicates that you sat for and canceled your exam. While you have 2 minutes at the test center to decide to accept or cancel your scores, you can also cancel online within 72 hours of completing your exam for $25. Additionally, you can reinstate a previous canceled score for $50. It can take 24 hours after your test for you to see the cancel and reinstate options online. The GMAT Enhanced Score Report helps you improve your results by knowing how you performed. For example, it includes overall performance ranking and percentage of correct answers, which allows you to see where you stand to benchmark against others and yourself. Performance ranking by question type to better understand what kinds of questions you answer easily and which ones trip you up. Time management ranking and average response times. And you can add a customized summary report by section, assessing your strengths and weaknesses for $25. GMAT is the only place to get official GMAT questions and should be a part of any successful prep plan. I'll share some of our data and how to best use these products to prep for the exam. The amount of time spent preparing will vary from person to person, but these stats are generally relevant. If you refer to the chart on the left, those who score 700 or greater report studying for 80 total hours on average. 80 hours seems easy enough, but if you look at the chart on the right, you'll see that the median number of hours spent on preparation is 40 hours in the US. That's only half the hours of more successful test takers. So generally speaking, the more you prep, the better you'll do. You can download GMAT Prep from MBA.com to help you practice. This is a free download that includes 2 full-length practice exams, 90 exams questions and answer explanations, and a diagnostic report, which provides you with the opportunity to understand your strengths and weaknesses on each section and question type. The diagnostic will be particularly helpful during the early stages of prep because you can use the score to determine where to focus your study efforts. Additionally, the practice exams have the same format and scoring algorithm as the real exam, so you have a good idea of how you'll perform on exam day. Individuals that download the prep and complete at least one practice exam score on average 80 to 90 points higher than those that don't. GMAT also offers a variety of study aids to help you prepare. There's an official guidebook, a guidebook specifically tailored toward the quantitative section, and a guidebook specifically tailored for the verbal section. These options also provide full-length practice exams. That's all for our GMAT preparation workshop. We hope that this information helps you feel more comfortable taking the GMAT, and we wish you all the best. If you have questions about the format, registering for the exam, test centers, etc., we recommend visiting mba.com/exams/GMAT or gmac.com. If you have questions about your program's admission requirements, please contact Graduate Admissions at 903-566-7457 or ogs@uttyler.edu. Thanks for watching.